Live. What's going on, everybody? You already
Oh, we're live across all platforms right now.
across all platforms. What's going on, everyone? This is a very so I don't want to say special occasion, but it's an interesting one. So today we're actually talking about how to revive your dying network, but it's really my dying network, and you're probably like, what are you talking about? Well, for those of you that might have been around seeing some of my content, especially last year, I was pretty active, aggressively active actually. And so here's what happened. The reason why I'm on tonight and why I'm on tonight with this guy is because the irony in me overcoming some of the social anxiety of social media was actually going on with a friend, going on with a colleague, going on with a professional who actually knows what it's like. Is that? Yes, it is. Gil Serrant is on. Oh, and here's the other thing, everyone. Here's the other thing too. So right now it's very intentional to actually go live on every platform, and the one platform that I don't have access to, Pierre does, and so I've actually hijacked his platform on LinkedIn to actually get to what will eventually be my network as well. So after like I reshare it. And so what's going on, Sasha? It's good to see you. So yeah, and here's the thing. Here's the thing as we just dive into this. It is going to be different from some of the weekly, like Pierre and I, we do a weekly worship, experience. And this feels different. And that's because this isn't about talking about something else. This is not talking about the word. It's talking about me. Talking about my journey over the last just about 7 months now, with where have I gone, what have I been doing, and how do I seek to revive my own personal and professional network. So yeah, Pete, please.
What's interesting about this also, Chris, is we're coming off of, not that long ago, a leadership training experience where we were in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And we were working with just leaders who had very unique jobs and faced unique challenges, and we were able to leverage each other's experience and perspective on leadership for that. So, and this is even different from what I've historically done on LinkedIn Live as well. I know we're across all of my platforms, we're across all of your platforms, and this is you're our case study, as it were.
Yeah.
But it's applicable to all of us because we're all trying to figure out, as life continues to shift and perspectives continue to change, how do we breathe life into what we used to have? For some of us, retirement state, you leave your job, all your people that you were with, you were close to, now you got to start all over again, and it feels like that work has died. So yeah, it'll be a good conversation, a very good conversation
for sure. And let's get to the beginning then. One of the things that has happened was in August when I started my new position at Proactive Talent. So let me show y'all got this. Shout out to Proactive. They out here in these streets. Your vibe affects or attracts your tribe. And this right here is part of what the networking process we're going to talk about, because one of the things that happened, and it's not, and it could have been any job, could have went to any job. One of the things that happened was me losing my sense of identity on social media. This is like the first thing that started to create the decline in my engagement online, specifically online. And then I think it might have matriculated out of that, and the reason is because as an entrepreneur, when I decided to take a full-time position, I experienced other entrepreneurs who also had full-time positions, but they still identified as entrepreneurs. But for some reason, it was hard for me to reconcile immersing myself into a new industry, which is the employer branding, talent branding industry, and then actually holding on to, and I say that very intentionally, holding on to what I was, doing as a solopreneur is like, how do these two things come together? Like,
Yeah.
who am I now? Because a lot of what I shared, particularly last year when everything started to come together, started to gel, creating courses and all of that, it shaped who I was as a business person. Like, this is my business is me. And then when I shifted to kind of put on hold the things that I was building, it then created some sort of internal tension that said, well, because I'm not really sharing what I used to, and the dynamics of being in a new job and wanting to focus, the first 3 months, right? The first 90 days, immersing myself and just acclimating myself with the virtual culture and just making sure that I'm on it, like I'm an A player. Not that parts of me were lost, but it was difficult to still kind of manage the two. And so I decided to focus. And for those of you that know, well, at least know me, we can tend to have this all or nothing, like, listen, for the next 3 months, for the rest of the year, this is what the focus is. We're going to get really good at this. Everything else just needs to be put on hold until we get this set up. And while this is set, we can always come back. Now, that may work for jobs, but it doesn't work for people.
Man, but isn't that what the gurus tell us?
Laser focus. Forget everything and everyone. But here's the crazy thing, right? Like, once again, it may work for tasks and for jobs, but for people, man, you can tend to take for granted that the people who you were building those relationships with are still going to be there, or you're going to have the same level of, whether it's camaraderie or connection or even value exchange that you had before, like when you're going to come back. So I started in August, then September, October, November, December hits, and I realized that there was a challenge. And the challenge was that I don't want to continue now doing both, working my full-time job and then working what was like a double full-time, right. As a business storytelling coach, I didn't want to lose either, number one, but then number two, I realized that the importance of networking and relationships wasn't as deep as it was before. So throughout our discussion, P, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be mentioning people and events that has helped me to reshape and to reframe what networking looks like for me. So I'm going to bring this up, which is dealing with putting my personal networking into perspective. And the first thing that I decided to do was I leaned into my gift, which is to create frameworks. So
listen, if you're not familiar with Chris's work, and I know some of you aren't, Chris has this thing for framework. So if you're just joining us, we're having a conversation on how to revive your dying network. You're trying to figure out, okay, whose thing is this? You could be showing up on Chris's social media. You could be showing up on mine. Either way, yes, you're in the right spot.
Yes. It's not even who's this. Yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes. Chris is going to be our case study of sorts on how to revive your dying network, because for a lot of us, things have shifted and we're trying to figure out how to put things in proper perspective. And a key component of that is the relationships we have with people. So as Chris is going through his story, through these frameworks, we'd love to hear in the comments what pieces resonate with you, how you share in this story in some ways, and the insights that you're taking away. We'll bring those perspectives on screen as well as Chris is sharing his story.
Yeah, listen, y'all. The first thing was the awareness of realizing that something had shifted, right? And the shift was what was very important to me in the beginning. Throughout 2021, no longer was important, nor was it urgent. And so now I needed to trace what happened to cause that. So we kind of went through that already. There was a major event. And those of you that know the whole storytelling thing, a big event, whether it's a promotion, being hired, being fired, it forces you to make a particular decision. And one of the decisions that I did make was to, hold on, that's kind of cool. So you
Yeah.
actually can. Huh. Interesting. So was to put everything on hold, right? In order to focus on being successful at
Mhm.
my new job. And here's the crazy thing. There's a lot that has to do with the mind because I'm at a job, and I'll probably say this more than once, that actually fosters you to continue or to begin doing something outside of your normal 9 to 5. Like the part of the mission is to help you to build and to have a well-rounded life and to go after the dreams that may not necessarily be directly connected to the talent branding industry. So
That's
there's some,
interesting.
yeah, yeah,
How many of us actually end up in places we feel like we have to hide? There's tension on like who owns your LinkedIn, who owns your social media, but
right,
you're in a position where the company fosters, hey, you work for us, but we want you to continue to share widely your original ideas.
right. And along with that, there's something called employee advocacy. So they also, as a not as a bonus, but they also encourage, and I think most companies would love for this to happen, but they also encourage share what's going on with us too. So there was this part of me that was like, well,
Mhm.
what do I share? You know, because it's like if I share one but not the other, and of course the easy answer is, well, you are the brand. So
Mhm.
you share whatever you share, whatever values attached to that comes back to you as the person, not you as the employee, not you as the entrepreneur, not you as the whatever. It's or the creative or the researcher. It's all you. Um, but some of us have that, but the singular focus has to be so dialed in that whatever I share needs to come back to like my overarching, you know, purpose that I have for myself. It's tough. It's tough. Um,
You gotta tag in.
yeah, we do.
Tag in sis on this one.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, so Brittany's gonna make it too. She's gonna make it into the conversation as well, because she's definitely a part of what we're gonna share. So yeah. So being aware of where I was, being aware of the big event that happened, and what it caused me to do was to be less intentional with sustaining or
Mm.
nurturing both personal and professional relationships. Because as things shifted, I said, what's more important to me right now is making sure that I don't get fired, which is crazy because the culture isn't like that. Brittany, shout out to Brittany. You know, instrumental, if not the pivotal reason why I'm actually working at Proactive right now. And so that's not the culture, but there's something that sometimes we build in our minds that
Yeah.
is the narrative and the story. This is what we talked about when we were at the leadership training, and it's that story that I was operating out of. So you could even be in a healthy home, you can be in an encouraging work environment, but if you have the wrong narrative, you can put yourself in a box that prevents you from being and from doing what you have been gifted, what you have been assigned, or even what you're just passionate about doing. Um, so how did I do this? So what I ended up doing was reverse engineering all of that and then figuring out the path to how I got to where I am right now. Like, how did this live with me and Pierre happen today? I used one of my gifts. One of my gifts is frameworking. And so what I did was I actually, so that's the whole thing, but let's break down this part first. I looked at Eisenhower's matrix. And with Eisenhower's matrix, he has helped us to prioritize what tasks fit where in our lives. Now, this is very important for me because, and you're going to see, I'm going to overlay this as when it comes to relationships, and this is how it deals with me. So it's not necessarily what you should be doing, but hopefully what I share with you is going to be able to start to unpack it for you. Many times anxiety comes from having everything in the red box. It's important and it's urgent. Like you have to do it now. And for a lot of us, especially when we're thinking about things in the future, what we end up doing is feeling supremely overwhelmed
Yep.
about everything that has to get done. It's everything has to get done at the same time, and that's not possible, right? But that's what this is. And so here, as you can see here, you've got the urgent, not urgent and important, which is to do now. You've got, oh yeah, definitely. So Brittany says she never considered a narrative of her brand outside of the work entrepreneurship. Yeah,
Yeah.
and with that, P, take a look. So we have the important and not urgent, which is the schedule. Now, this is the temptation of where procrastination could come in.
Oh man.
The yellow box is like, oh boy, I don't know. I see it, but I don't really. But here's the thing: I had to realize it's okay. I'm going to keep saying this over and over again. Just because it's in the yellow, green, or blue box and it's not in the red, that's all right. What you're doing is you are compartmentalizing, which I know is a terrible word for us to talk about when it comes to being human beings, but you're putting things in its proper place so that you aren't overwhelming yourself with what needs to be done immediately versus what can be done later. Urgent but not important is you got to delegate it. And then if it's not urgent and it's not important, you have to eliminate it. So here's some examples, y'all. So with or this is more of the detail actually. And I love the fact that, and you can Google this. This is nothing that's new. Eisenhower Matrix, you'll find this information. But think about the do, schedule, delegate, and eliminate in terms of tasks first. All right. So not in terms of you. And whenever you're ready, Pete, chime in. Not in terms of you and what you have to do, but think about it in terms of the task first. Because as soon as you start thinking about what I have to do, I mean, obviously you do schedule, delegate, or eliminate. But when you think of it as I have to do something, you're already putting everything into the red square.
And the tough thing about this for a lot of us, Chris, based on how we're conditioned, is we're framed around a to-do list.
Right.
Like that's how we write down your to-do list.
Yeah.
And once I put it down on my paper, I'm not thinking, oh, I got to delegate, schedule, eliminate. I'm thinking I have to get all of this done and check it off, or I start to feel like, I'm a failure.
And there goes the narrative. That degenerative narrative then starts to replay, and then you act like you're a failure. This is crazy. Think of it in terms of tasks first. So the do quadrant, it's both urgent and important. It's tasks with clear deadlines and consequences for not taking immediate action. If there is a consequence for not doing it immediately, then you got to do it. That's the best way to think about the do quadrant. Some people think that it seems important and it seems urgent, but I'm not sure. Well, if there isn't a clear consequence, and usually a negative one, it could be a positive one too, though, right? Like if you don't sign the check, so, and it depends, like, is that important and urgent for you? If it's not, then that's a whole nother situation. But think about it that way. What's the consequence? Is there a deadline? And what's going to happen if I don't take immediate action? The next one is tasks without a deadline, but it will bring you closer to your goals. So this one is important because for it to be not urgent and important means that you also have to have goals. So I would suggest, and this is how come I came to this, P. I had to look back at what were my goals for the year. What were the things that I was looking to do, that I am looking to do? What does Q1 look like? We're in Q2 now. What does Q2 look like based on Q1? And so I don't necessarily have to do them now. I don't have to do Q3 goals right now, but what are some things that I should probably start planning out so that by the time third quarter comes, I'm on track, right? And so number 3, I'm going to go through these guys because it's not a lot of slides, but I want to get to the meat of this thing, is tasks that need to be done but don't require your specific skill set.
Ooh, what if I like it?
Oh, then go ahead and put it in the red and see how quickly your red fills up. It is difficult for many of us, especially because we have the skill set to say, you know what, even though I can do it, I shouldn't do it. If you're a multi-potentialite, I don't like that term. But if you are great at doing a lot of things, the temptation is, oh, I'll just do it myself. And what you do is you miss the opportunity of exercising, and this is your arena now, P. Some of the leadership qualities, the leadership skills that's necessary for when it is time to build a team. Because what you gonna do as CEO and founder? At some point, you should no longer be booking your hotel and flights to go to an event.
If you have children, especially if they're younger, you're hanging out with us, one of the ways that we learn this practice of I'll just do it myself is from our parents.
Wow. Yeah.
So if you're a parent You have to allow the space for messiness, for growth, or for a learning curve. Because if not, by saying because your child makes a mess or doesn't do it to the level of excellence that you do, as you condition the child while saying, "Don't worry about it, I'll just do it myself."
Yeah.
You're training them to lead that way.
And it's a hard habit
So
to
hard.
break.
So hard.
It no longer becomes a habit. It's like it's a hardwired characteristic of who you are as a person.
Part of who you are. Yep.
I got it. Don't worry. I got it. I got it. I got it. Last but not least, y'all, is eliminate. It's tasks that are not related to your goals and can be considered distractions. Dr. Deborah is also with us here this evening. And here's a question. What are some tasks right now that you need to eliminate right now? Right now, just think about them. And here is how you can unpack once again. Well, what task should I be focusing on? Because I've got a lot of things to do. Well, maybe you might need different domains of goals that you have. We're starting from zooming out in. Start with the annual goals. You were talking about being a parent. What are your parental goals? What are your fitness goals? What are your professional goals, like professional development? What are your spiritual goals, financial goals? So you just might end up having 3 Eisenhower matrices.
Yeah.
If it all can't fit, you guys understand, into one nice, neat little box. The whole point is to start stratifying, at least for those that work like me, start stratifying these tasks so it doesn't seem either overwhelming or that it doesn't seem like everything needs to get done at the same time, or that you have time to do it. So everything's in a schedule quadrant. There's some stuff that you need to do now, because then there would be repercussions. Distractions look like opportunities when you don't know where you're going. Absolutely. Here's some examples of what those tasks are, guys. So to do, just to make it a little bit more concrete. Now, a lot of these might be professional related, such as finishing a client project, writing an article or that blog post, handle a departmental crisis. Like there's some things that you had planned to do that you were going to do, but then there's another thing that comes up and you have to put a fire out. P, how many clients have you had where the handle a departmental crisis or even a company crisis is not in the do category, but it's in the delegate category because they think it's somebody else's job? I know you can't call out no clients, but but I'm sure you've experienced where people put some of these tasks in the wrong place. Scheduling. So exercise. Now, for some of y'all, like, no, exercise is urgent and important. Then put it in there. Put it in. This is fluid. What's urgent and important for me may not be urgent and important for you. And that's very important. Your Eisenhower matrix may not look like someone else's. Now, there are certain things that is always going to be, or should, from a principle standpoint, should be in certain categories. But for the most part, you are you. Your goals are your goals. And the way that you get to them, or what you delegate this for somebody else may not delegate. Right? So keep that in mind. Exercising, a savings goal for a major purchase, long-term business strategy. So, okay. Delegating looks like this. And this is what we were talking about before, like booking meetings, flights, appointments, responding to certain emails, administrative tasks. There are some emails that are urgent and important. So guess what? You got to put it in the red task or in the red box. But there are some, you can have somebody else do that if you have the bandwidth and capacity to have somebody to do that. And we're going to actually talk about that too. What does that look like? How do I delegate it if I can't find anybody? That's where relationships come in. Eliminating. Listen, meetings with no agenda.
Get it off. Just get it off.
Don't meet for the sake of meeting. Binge watching your favorite show. And once again, remember, tasks.
What if that's my personal development?
You know what? Then I go back to this. Tasks that are not related to your goals and can be considered distractions. So if part of one of the goals is I need to learn how to relax a little bit more, or I need to, you know what? Go ahead and schedule some time. But as soon as that becomes a hindrance to the goal that is important. So now you've got the relaxation in, but now the relaxation is turning into procrastination once again. So this is fluid, and so you have to use your judgment and also discipline. But scrolling through social media or spam, I can't tell you how many times that you think that maybe there's an important email that you might have missed, so you just kind of click and then you kind of just start scrolling to see if you lost anything. And it's like, but is that really, really important right now? Unless somebody from admin might have sent you something and said, hey, did you get it?
Yeah.
Right. So Dr. Deborah tells us she needs to stop doing routines like reading unnecessary emails or responding to emails when I know I'm not interested in what they're offering. Yeah. And here's the thing. What I ended up doing was taking the Eisenhower matrix. Now, remember, for those of you that are just coming in, we're talking about what happens when you were very active, whether it be a social media, in your personal network, and then things started to die off. How do you revive your dying network? So even if you have any ideas of what you've done, feel free. You don't have to wait till we're done. This is an open conversation. First, I had to become aware that it was actually happening. What was the event that happened? So for me, it was taking on a full-time position that really started to mess with, well, who am I as a person? And that is a deeper issue that I had to figure out and work through, because what I bring to the table isn't necessarily who I am as a person. Just because I may bring valuable information, I still didn't feel as a valuable person. There's some nuances there that I had to work out personally. And the reason why that was important for me, I had to understand that because at some point I was not posting as I was learning and absorbing new industry, new tasks, new role. And so for me, it was like a new identity. And so even though I entered in thinking, okay, no, I'm still, we out here, we still the entrepreneur, we still getting it done. It's another stream of income, but we're adding value to another entity and to another industry, but you are still you. It's easy when you say it, but it's harder when you actually start living in a truth that you didn't necessarily wrap your head fully around yet. So for me personally, I have really staked a lot of my value into how much value or how much do I share online or to other people. And if that value isn't shared, am I still a valuable individual? And so what ended up happening, P, was I then had to look at, is this thing still important to me? This is where anxiety happened for me, y'all, because the anxiety then went from it's no longer important or urgent to, man, I got to get back to it. I got to do this. Because if I don't do this, I'm going to lose the traction that I made when I was a full-on entrepreneur. And I didn't need to balance the time. Like all the time there was for me to do everything. And if I don't do it, then something's going to die. So I went from latency to being anxious to back to latency. Do you see that the pendulum that was swinging back and forth? Here's what happened. Absolutely, Dr. Deborah. Absolutely. So here's what I ended up doing. I decided to use the Eisenhower matrix and to put my own networking, my personal and professional networking into perspective. WIP means it's a work in progress. So here's what I ended up doing. For the do, if it's urgent and important, I create or leverage existing connections.
Give me an example.
I do got the.
Yeah, I know you do.
I didn't want to put it all there right now, but let's just hop right into it. So for the urgent and important, another way of looking at this from a value standpoint is to seizing the opportunities or to giving or to extracting that value. So writing and responding to emails, DMs, texts, phone calls. Great example. Recently, I don't know if Brittany, if you're still with us, but Brittany hit me up. And you remember last year, P, when we did the LinkedIn recommendation challenge,
yep.
That really whet my palate with Coach YB, who allowed us to learn how to give meaningful recommendations. And so Brittany recently reached out and said, hey, can you send me, I'm requesting, a recommendation. Are you able to do that? And there was no anxiety there. It was like, oh, yeah, sure. I got you, Britt. Still got you. But here's the thing. I put that in the red box. It's very important. Why is that important? Because this is something that is going to allow me to give value immediately. Now, the consequence isn't necessarily on my end. So this is me now empathizing and realizing that the consequence may be on the other side for the other person who's requesting something from you. And so you want to be able to put into this category the things that are important. Okay. Here's another example: presenting at an existing network, community, or a conference or a summit. So shout out to Proactive Talent, because I guess this is a little bit of employee advocacy here, right? Because they give you the opportunity to take time off to do the things that you love, or the things that you're passionate about, or the other things in your life that are going on that you need to take care of. And so I was able to present to what's the official name of what we did up here? It was the Bexar County Specialty
Specialty.
Courts.
Yep.
So, and in that county, we did a leadership summit. I was able to take a few days off to actually do that. But there was also an event before that. I think it was the week before, with Shakita Lee. She's a part of, I think it's called the Black Entrepreneurs Network, and able to present there. It was in the morning, and we had a great group that allowed me to just share how to give a signature introduction. Right. And so for me, these are in the red box because these are opportunities that have deadlines. Now, some of them may not, but there could be perceived deadlines for the other person. So you got to be careful with that, because what you don't want to do is get yourself all worked up over somebody else's deadline, right? Because then you have a whole lot of stuff that you're doing for somebody else. But the point is that these things had very specific deadlines. And then here's another example: publishing or blogging. Publishing your blog posts or white papers, newsletters. So like if you have an e-newsletter campaign or something like that, you want to make sure that those things are in the red box as well. Okay. So, and by the way, some of these are fluid. Okay. Yeah. So I put underneath the publishing, you can also put that in the schedule section. Okay. So speaking of the schedule section, this is where I looked at things that were urgent or not urgent, but important. So this is where I think the meat of our relationships should be stewing, so to speak. So you're nurturing opportunities to build on your current value. This is where you're maintaining your professional and personal connections. So an easy way to do this is to plan brief check-ins with current connections. Man, but I haven't spoken to them in a long time. It's the best. It's okay. And it's the best time to do it, because you don't need anything from them yet. You're not in a red zone yet. Yeah. If you're in a red zone, you're going to feel even more uncomfortable. And it's because you need to extract value. You're not even trying to give. The red is for either giving immediately or extracting. Where it's like, listen, there's something that I need to do. I need to pull the trigger on the sales funnel. I need to, so stay in the yellow, let the yellow nurture. And the best way is to just, hey, checking in on you, seeing how you're doing. Now, once again, these are things that I still am currently working through. This is for me, hoping that it might be for you too. If you're in that space where you're trying to figure out, like, how do I just get back on because I used to be. This is for the person that, especially who used to be very active, engaged, and they were very social or proactive in their networking. And then it's like, man, something shifted. Figure out what caused that shift, and then figure out where you are in this quadrant. So when I realized that I was in the blue quadrant, which we'll talk about, I had to get help. Okay. So another thing to do is you need to engage with interesting articles, achievements, or others on public or public mentions in social media. This is a great way, so that, for instance, this happened to me today. Let me tell you something. And this is why it's so great to have friends that actually think about you, because Pierre actually just tagged me in something today on LinkedIn. And it was a nudge for me to say, you know what, I should at least reciprocate or respond with a micro interaction, even if it's just clicking the like button. It's simple, but for a lot of people, it may create a lot of anxiety. Why? Because you might have put it into the red zone, the red box. I got to do it quickly. Not necessarily. They're just maybe acknowledging you for something that you did, or acknowledging you for something that they think you might find interesting. So set aside some time to just, oh, cool. You don't even have to create a long paragraph or a comment most of the times, if at all. Sometimes it's just popping in so that they recognize that you actually are aware and appreciate the fact that they tagged you in. Now, do you need to do that for everything? No, because I think Facebook is infamous for people like having photos or things and just tagging like 50, 40,
Mhm.
90 people, and it's just like, yeah. So this is where you need to start figuring out, is this something that needs to be planned, or is that a distraction? Okay, so that's the yellow. Here's the third one for the yellow, which was really important, that really helped to whet my palate, was the attending events and memberships, conferences and summits. Now that can also be in the do quadrant too. But the reason why this is more so in the planning is because most of these events and conferences, you get ample time, unless you just found out about it, so that you can schedule right to actually get there. So it's interesting, P, because we went to the Talent Brand Summit. So and it was a great time. Great time. Proactive Talent took a few of us from the team, from the tribe, and we were able to head over to Austin, and we had a blast. And what that did was it reminded me of how social, how interactive I actually was. What these events can do when you're attending an event with other people, even if it's virtual, but there's something about being there live in person. And of course, COVID is still real, but it was different, man. Like it reminded me of who I was as a social being. And what that helped me to do was it helped me to tap back into the importance of connecting with other people. So I've actually met some new people who I now have connected with on LinkedIn. Now, here's the question. Have I nurtured those relationships? Do I need to do a check-in? Yes, I do. Yep. And so all of that is in the planning. Yep. Planning to encourage and applaud others. That is such a great way. And here's one of the things that broke down for me. On social, when I came back, P, you know this, I only did one of two things. I either celebrated the things that other people were doing or shared what I was doing. My breakdown was when I stopped sharing because I wasn't sure what to share anymore. And then I stopped celebrating what other people were doing. And so the whole thing just collapsed, y'all. So once again, you got to figure out, what was your purpose for even using certain social tools, even if it was conferences and events, right? So for a lot of us, COVID broke that down. So everything collapsed, because for many of us, that was the only way that we would connect with other people or felt as if we were. And then we had to shift and then move online. And so now we have like this hybrid thing that's here now. Okay, let's move to the urgent, but it's not important. So remember, this is something that you're delegating to somebody else. Now, how would you delegate relationships? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, this is from a relational standpoint. Well, you're assigning the opportunities to improve overall value. So what that means is you're getting help to improve the value to connection. So what does that mean? Well, you can do 3. This is for me. These are some of the things that I've done. You can create a social media calendar. Well, I haven't done that yet. That's all another. Yeah, put that on the plan. Plan to delegate.
Cause the key to leave. All right.
Yeah, right. And but that right is for the second one, which is hiring a social media or content strategist or marketer or manager or even an intern. So for those of you like, I don't know, I can't afford it. Listen, there are people, there are students, there are individuals who are out there who'd be willing, especially if they believe in what you're doing, to add value, because maybe on their end, they're going to cash that in one day.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe they believe that by doing this, especially if you're a startup, like, there is going to be a turnaround. And when that turnaround comes, you're going to be able to pay them at some point. But just don't lead people on. Right? Don't lie to people and tell them, hey, listen, that's not delegating. That's just straight up lying. Like, don't do that. So with hiring, go ahead, Pete.
People in this category, just really quickly, sometimes we get caught up in what you were saying before. Like, I gotta do this. Like, it's gotta be me.
Yeah.
Listen, most of the people you see on social media and you think they're responding to you, that it's not them.
It ain't them. Yeah. Here's the last one. Virtual assistants to help prioritize connections.
Listen here.
Go ahead, talk about that one.
The idea that you cannot afford, for many of us, is it's not true. It's an excuse.
Yeah.
You can shift your budget enough.
Yep.
And if that means less McDonald's or less Starbucks, even the value of having someone help you 1 to 2 hours a week will tremendously change how you conduct your business. And the cool thing about it is that your assistant can help to schedule those in the yellow, those brief check-ins You can just say to your assistant, hey, these are 10 people I need to maintain a conversation with. Can you get me on their calendars and
Yeah.
schedule time for us to chat? And it takes the pressure off of you to feel like, oh, I'm overwhelmed because a lot is going on right now.
Right. Right. That's
From
so good.
that support.
That's so good. And here's another thing for those of you that still are like, I don't know, I'm not sure. You either have a Hey Google or a Hey Siri that is
Yeah.
gonna. I got to turn them off. I'm going to turn them off now because
Let me turn mine off because I don't want
they all just came on just now. And ask for that reminder quickly.
That's free. You already paid $1,000 for the phone, so that's free.
Use it, right? And so that being said, y'all, this quadrant here for the assigning, remember, it's the opportunities to improve the value. So red is for exchanging value or extract, like you it's like, if not immediate, it's like, listen, there's a deadline or there's a window, open cart, closed cart for certain things that you might be selling or for closing a sale or whatever it is. The yellow is about nurturing. This one you can do over time. And eventually you'll have an urgent or important moment. Not every person that's in your yellow needs to go to the red.
Yep.
Right. You shouldn't see. And this is one of the things too, P, that was a blocker, might have been a blocker for me, was last year and Coach YB, I think you dropped his tag. You tagged him in, I think. He rephrased what I was sharing with him. And this is me getting to the blue area. He said that you no longer had a safety net, so you weren't networking as much. See, for me, networking was do or die. If I didn't have connections, I didn't have cash flow. So I had to connect with people. But what that also meant was that I'm connecting to eventually get them into the red. Now, that doesn't mean that your goal shouldn't be to get people to the red, but not everybody you should see with a dollar sign.
No, say it again.
You can't, because not every connection is about a monetary value. There are going to be some things that you both may barter. As a matter of fact, there just may be some red quadrant connections where it's not about you extracting, it's about you giving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it is. And it's immediate, not for you, but for them. And so this is me also reframing. As I'm talking to you, I'm talking to me, because there are people who I have to reframe. Listen, it may not be important for me, but it's important for them. Yo, get on it. So here's the last one. Oh, and then the green is about hiring, finding someone who's not just going to do the work for you. You remember, this is not about the Eisenhower matrix of tasks. This is, I don't know, Chris Bartley matrix of relationships. Right. This is you actually finding people who is going to help you to either further nurture or to improve, add value to your relationship. So creating a social media calendar is now allowing you to create additional value pieces, or an email campaign, additional value pieces where you're not asking, but you're giving. You're giving your time to connect with somebody. You're giving your creative value or your framework, and you're sharing it live so that people can actually glean something from it. That's what the green is about. The green is not about assigning people to do your tasks. It's about, how do I improve or continue to nurture relationships by giving somebody else the opportunity to do that on my behalf. Why? Because I don't have the time to do it. Or I have the time and the skill set, but maybe I want to bring somebody else on the team and give them an opportunity. Listen, it's infinite. Here is where the blue, what's going on, YV? It's good to see you, sir. He came at the right time, actually. This is where the blue, this is where now at the end of the year, I realized something is wrong. I said to myself, I no longer see relationships as important per se, and I no longer see them as urgent. And so the eliminate here is not eliminating the task or eliminating relationships altogether. That makes no sense. Here is where you now need to rethink the importance of relationships, or better yet, to eliminate the thinking that prevents you from doing it.
Yeah.
Elimination. Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
What you were saying before when we started this,
yeah,
for those of you who are just joining us, the power of the story you're telling yourself in the moment.
Yes. 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 Blue is about storytelling. The blue is you need to tell yourself a different narrative so that you understand that relationships are important. And if you don't care about it and if it's not that deep, then here's what you do. Because this is what I did. You need to hire a professional development or a leadership coach like Pierre Quinn, who's on the other side of me right now, or somebody like YB, who's is in the chat with us right now. Man, YB always love you, man. You need to find somebody who's going to help you to start to reframe the meaning of networking and connections.
Mm-hmm. No,
that is go ahead, Pete.
I gotta drop this in for one of my coaching clients, right? She has a senior role in a nonprofit, and we crafted a one-on-one strategy because she needed to get up to speed on the culture of her organization. I said the fastest way for you to get up to speed on the culture of your organization is not through reading manuals, not through looking at websites, not through sitting in meetings. Yeah. The fastest way to get up to speed on the culture is one-on-one conversations. In 90 days, wow, her trajectory of influence increased. She probably 10x'd it.
Wow.
By simply reframing the meaning of networking and conversations for her coming into a new organization.
That's good. That's good. That's good. You know what? The blue is the hardest to work through because this is where you have to, it's not green. Green is, I'll give somebody the opportunity. Blue is, I need somebody else to help me out of this thing. Not only did I get coaching, but I also got a therapist. The irony is, I didn't even think about when it was with therapy, and even in the beginning of talking with YB, when we were like looking and trying to figure out like what should I be doing? The therapy led to me asking YB, you know what's important for me when it comes to my quality of life? Because the therapist was talking about, these are the things that you need to remind me. I was like, man, I know I need that piece, but I needed somebody to push me. Mm-hmm. I needed somebody to ask me the hard questions, somebody to hold me accountable. Mm-hmm. Did you do it this year or not this year? This week? Yep. Did you do it? And the whole goal here is once I start to rethink the importance of relationships, immediately, y'all, this is so important. Immediately, the thing that I did, now I'm working myself backwards to help you to figure out. When I said and I realized, okay, I'm in a rut. I'm not doing what I used to do. Let me get the help. Immediately, I said, now I need to find somebody who's going to help me to leverage that value.
Absolutely.
I got a marketer. I didn't say, okay, then let me do this myself. Nope. I found somebody else to use and to help leverage the value that I've already created last year. Take that and let's start to share it with other people. Let's start to build connections. We're not really building yet. We want to start to renew or to warm the people that we did have connections with before. That led me to the importance of the yellow. Now I'm scheduling.
I love it.
Connections, y'all. I'm scheduling check-ins, not for anything else as of for right now, just to rebuild and to know that there are people that I've connected with last year. It was valuable. It felt great. Let's get back to doing that. And then there's red. There's going to be a time to pull the trigger, not necessarily for me to grab, but for me to give. So, P, that is what has helped me to go live tonight. Oh, and here's a caveat. So when we talk about the green, my marketer told me, she said, so you're gonna waste precious time trying to write it? I know it's gonna sound great and it's gonna be a perfect piece but how much easier would it be for you to just talk this out? How much easier would it be for you to use the gift that we talked about you have in the beginning of our engagement? Use your voice. Like literally, like use it, talk it out. Use the energy that you can't really see when you're writing a blog post. Is that a gift too? Yeah, but I need you to talk this out, or you should talk it out. And then it was amplified because now I have somebody else. Well, I should point it down now, who's out here with me, and we're embodying what it means to not just be on live to just share value, but we're sharing it together. Yeah. So even though Pierre has my my free training at the bottom there, if you're looking for somebody, now Pete, I'm gonna probably butcher your so maybe I should just have you do it.
Nope. Nope.
Someone
This
who is
is
going.
nope. I'm jumping in. I'm jumping in because you've been going for 40 plus minutes,
Yeah.
and I want to underscore what you said before,
Mm,
working backwards and coming to the red and being in places now where you can contribute, seeing the value of not just extracting but of contributing.
absolutely.
So, sure. I mean, my website is there. People want to know more about me. That's fine. But however, the scrolling ticker at the bottom of the screen
I can't stand.
group/free. So tell us about that. I know we're cross pollinating networks, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
my social media and your social media together, and that's perfectly fine. But you're coming out of this transformative experience, and we want to tell people what the next step is.
If there's anybody who's great at the contributing quadrant in the red, tis you, sir. Just saying. All of this is great, but you're probably going to get to a point where you're going to ask, so how do I do this in real life? Like, what does this sound like? How can I put this all together? So I put together a free training. It's called a signature introduction. And that's really just learning how to reintroduce yourself to the world. And so we go through a few pieces of the storytelling narrative that is very commonplace. Like it's not even like there's a beginning, middle, and end. There's a context, conflict, and a conclusion. The one that I use has 7 points, and these 7 points allow you to kind of see your narrative in this, like literally in this arch. And what we do is we take 2 out of the 7 and create somewhat of an origin story to help people to understand who you are, what you do, and who you serve. That's it. Um, and it shouldn't take you that long. Like there's a 10 plus page workbook that comes with it. Like just put it in. You'll get the information, and then if you're really serious, go ahead and share it with me. Like I have this in the thing, and I will tell you, share. I want to know like what you actually did, so that you can actually get feedback from me to help you to improve how you would do this. This is typically also helpful for people who are doing live streams, webinars, podcasts, but it can also be for someone who just wants to get a handle on, I'm in a new space. How do I introduce myself? So, or reintroduce myself. I was
Absolutely.
allowed me to anyway.
Yeah. And this is why this is important for all 6 social media accounts that we have going right now as we're having this conversation. A lot of us, we are reluctant. The apprehension jumps in when it's time for us to connect with other people because we're not quite sure the story
Hmm.
you want to tell or that we need to tell at any particular time. And what's cool
Right.
about Chris's training is, and I've seen him develop this training over several years. It's part of his graduate research. I've seen him give it on stage to hundreds of people. I've seen him get paid handsomely to deliver this training as well. So what he gives you in this sometimes when we hear free, we say like it's free, like it can't
Low
be that.
value.
No, incredible amount of value that will change how you enter into conversations in person and online as soon as you complete it. And Dr. Deborah says, yeah, I need that. So yeah,
Oh.
Dr. Deborah, Bartley.group/free is the place to get started on that.
I leave you with this. I have a signature intro, but I don't have a signature outro. I leave you with this. It's never too late to reframe your story. That's been one of my well, that is a signature outro actually. It's been one of the things that I typically end almost every presentation or training with is you might think that because you are now starting 5 years or 10 years later than when you actually knew better, especially if you knew better, that all hope is gone. But it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. As a matter of fact, your favorite narrative, I'm going to end here, P. I know we're almost going on now, but your favorite narrative comes from the protagonist that you resonate with the most, who probably took a long time before they decided to answer their call to adventure. And then when they did, boy, did things turn around for them. They realized that as they're entering into this new or this special world, leaving their ordinary world behind, y'all know the hero's journey, that things started to come alive. There are new gifts or things that might have been given to them before the journey that only can be activated in the new world. So there's some of you that have some things right now that you're holding on to. You have relationships that you even might be nurturing or you haven't been connected to, and it won't activate. It won't do anything for you or you for them until you decide to cross over into the new world. And what does the new world look like? Like, what does that look like in real life? Well, that looks like you first figuring out, where am I in this story? Like, do I have a dying network? And if I do, how did that happen? And how can I circumvent? Here's the thing. I was going to say circumvent. Don't even circumvent. Accept that that was the reality. And then move forward. So for me, just to bring this whole thing back around, the full-time position was a huge event that I can't even say sabotage. It helped to challenge me how to balance both. Working this full-time position was the best thing that I've ever done. It's the greatest opportunity of my life because it opened my eyes to realizing it could have been any opportunity. It was the story that I was telling myself that prevented me from leveraging and from nurturing the relationships that I had built. So for some of you, it's not the event. For many of you, it's not the event. It's the story that you're telling yourself as you go through it. So if you want to get a jump start, go ahead and do that signature training, y'all. It'll get you out of your head. Get some stuff on paper. And then email me, like share it with me. Tell me, hey, Chris, I did it. What do you think? And I'll give you my thoughts.
I'm gonna slide this in before our broadcast is over. There are, and Julian Johnson, Dr. Julian Johnson is jumping in with us.
My man.
And also, YB, what a breakthrough. On top of the individual storytelling and considering reviving your dying network, there are some of us who are watching this on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You're a part of organizations that need to reframe the organizational story. You need to reframe how you're navigating the culture of your organization, especially in this COVID world. Tons of turnover, distributed teams, onboarding new talent, and you're trying to figure out, okay, who are we and what story do we need to share with the world? Now, the training that Chris provides is not for that. That's for your individual journey. And if you're looking for how do I leverage some of those principles for our organization, feel free to reach out to Chris on his website, bartley.group. That's bartley.group, not bartley.com, not bartley.net. Is there still .net? I don't know. Bartley.group.
Yeah. And I appreciate that, P. If you have more time, we talk about brand stories.
Hey, wait, we got to come back.
That's for the next one. Yeah. Appreciate you guys. And me saying this is going to hold accountability for me in the yellow quadrant that we were sharing. I'm back.
He's back.
Do we have an outro for this? We don't got an outro, do we?
No, I'm just going to hit end broadcast.
Okay, we out.